Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of A New Go of New Home Sales. I'm your host, Anya Chrysanthon, and I'm co-hosting today with our Director of Sales, Sarah Williams.
Hi, everybody. Hey.
And we're very excited to welcome our guest for today. Her name is Sneha Kumari, and she is with Etherson Inc. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I apologize ahead of time, you guys, for my sexy, crispy voice today. So I've been a little bit sick. So I'm going to let Sarah do most of the talking today, and hopefully I don't get into a coughing spell. So with that, Sneha, we'd love to learn more about you and who you are. If you don't mind giving us a story of your life. So tell us what you do now and, how did you get into this business?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. And I am loving this panel of women leaders. I have to say, hey, cheering on women in construction. So thank you. I'll start from the beginning. I was born and raised in India and started my career as actually in instrumentation, engineering, electronics, and instrumentation. Worked with companies like Honeywell, Schneider, the billion-dollar companies, and navigating growth there. I started in quality. My first interaction, my first work as an intern, and then starting my career was in quality. And then because I started working in R&D a little bit, I got exposed to the full tenet of supply chain. So that started from, where you touch a product, you bring in your components and little things to make a product to finally delivering it. And this whole thing gave me an understanding of what supply chain is. And, this was pretty back, like more than a decade back, when, trust me, I know nobody knew what supply chain was. So it's funny, but, until COVID happened, I would say I still struggled explaining to my family what supply chain was, and many other people. So that love started there for supply chain. And I worked in different industries. So, it was industrial automation. Then I worked in a little bit home automation. And while I was doing all of that, I got a chance to travel to Sweden. I absolutely loved it. I lived there for some time. That was like my first venture out of my country. I was backpacking. I visited, I just took my bag and actually visited the entire Europe, meaning 5-6 countries. It was a pretty big deal. It was pretty amazing, just venturing out. And then, I've been moving a lot after that. But yeah, after doing this, I knew that I wanted to get my master's. My husband was already here in the US, and he introduced me to doing my master's, to the schools and the curriculum, and how amazing it was. So I wanted to do my master's. I came here to Pittsburgh and I did my MBA and specialized in supply chain management. And I started working for a manufacturing company. And when I say manufacturing, it's a big umbrella. There are different industries and they have different manufacturing. So I've worked with industrial and automotive and a little bit of oil and gas, all of that. So different industries, but again, doing supply chain in different roles, led in different capacities. Then did supply chain in the grocery and retail space. And trust me, have served so many different industries. The concepts are the same. You're changing the packaging. The challenges are different, right? And then I got a chance to interact with prefabrication manufacturing, right? That's where I started learning more about construction. And so prefabrication manufacturing wasn't very different from the challenges that I faced in manufacturing, wherein I was actually the receiving end of softwares, right? And trying to work my way through it. I have done many ERP implementations and actually used several ERPs through my career. And I know that even after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in ERP, I still had to confine to Excel to get my final data and represent it to my leadership, right? Which is crazy. And some of the ERPs that were not so developed, like today you have cloud ERPs and, some of the capabilities, you still are looking at months of onboarding, and you still need support to customize your reports. Construction itself fascinated me after I was introduced to prefab manufacturing and then, modular construction, which how fragmented it is and how very less digitized it was. Like it is so ripe. Like this industries has been with us forever, right? And how like we have come a long way. Like there's some sectors that have seen so much invention and innovation, that we have come a long way. Like, look at your electronics and all of the stuff like that. And then manufacturing, I have to say, like, I have to commend them for their appetite for change. So it's changing. They have adopted tech. They want to change. They talk about Lean Six Sigma, even at the smaller business unit levels, because I've worked with smaller business units also. And construction itself, because of the nature of how it is, it just feels like it has been ripe for disruption for so long now. Yet because of the because of the change management piece of it, it hasn't been really much embraced by even the doers of like yes, from an executive level we are talking, there are softwares out there, but from a doer standpoint, like people who actually do the work, it's still very using some of the obsolete ways of working. So I saw the gap there definitely, and wanted to make sure that I filled the gap. I am a supply chain person, like in and out, right? Like through and through, that's what I've done. And then I've have my brother who was actually working in tech at the time, and then had some time. He already was a founder and had some time, so we wanted to work together to fill this gap with something that's more with just the concept was pretty simple on why we wanted to do this. We wanted to build a control tower that brought all the parties together under one space. Whatever you're doing in a construction, that could be GCs, general contractors, that could be real estate developers, that could be your prefab manufacturers, under one umbrella, and being able to communicate with each other, have the visibility, but then go on a step further, which is be more intelligent with your operations. Like a lot of people think that you need a lot of fancy softwares to actually see productivity, but that's not true. That should not be true, right? We should be able to have a good user experience of a good software, which is easy to use, simple, quick to onboard, but also be efficient, be able to tap into that operational efficiency, because otherwise, how will I be profitable in my business? Profit margins are a factor of both cost and sales. And so while you're working all these fancy stuff in sales, we should not forget that we have to keep our costs low or stay, steady, so to actually keep our profit margins growing. So that was the intent, and why we should be looking at tools that would make sense for your business. It could be this one, it could be other tools as well, but it's important to know why and when you need your software. So knowing your why behind is also very important. That's what I also talk a lot about when I speak with companies. Maybe, you're a 2-people company and Excel is working out, but if you have a vision for your company and you want to grow, you have to look at your operational efficiency. You have to unlock that productivity. And that's the story here. But sorry, this went long, but apart from that, I'm super, super passionate about circular economy. I talk a lot about the power of supply chains. I blog, I speak of making circular economy happen. And modular is at it's just at the perfect intersection. I think I was talking to Anya and I was telling her before, like everything just came together wherein I love circular economy. I love supply chains. There's a gap of operational efficiency, and bringing all of that together, it just felt like everything brought me to make this happen.
So you are so right in mentioning that the word supply chain has been like front and center recently, right? Since the pandemic happened. So you threw out a few definitions, and I just want to make sure that our listeners understand, because we do have a lot of sales and marketing people on board. So I don't want them to be completely lost. So explain to us supply chain like you would to a 5th grader. What is it?
Yes. So first of all, I'm happy that, supply chain is a word being actually used also by the government recently, which is great, which gives us the right visibility. Also why we need the supply chain peeps at the C-suite to actually be working together with the other focuses of the organization. I don't know if 5th graders are allowed to have phones. I am not there yet. My kids are super young, but if you are, if you look at your phone, you have multiple different things that make up your phone, right? You have the cover, the case, you have some cool electronic chips on it, you have the screen on it. So supply chain is the effort of bringing all of these small little things together and then putting them together like you would put a Lego together to make your car or your phone, and then actually shipping. I mean, of course, making sure that all of that, whatever you intend of that product is working, and then shipping out to your customer. And everything in between is supply chain, from bringing all those small little particles of components to build your product to actually shipping it out, which is the logistics part of it. And then actually sometimes bringing it back too, because if it didn't sort of like, reverse logistics, so bringing it back from your customer and doing something about it. And so everything in between of what I spoke is all things supply chain. So wherever you are, our listeners sitting, look around you, everything around you has supply chain in it.
Well, even if thinking about the house itself, like if you think about construction, like a home, how many pieces and parts go into putting together a house? Like, I can't even imagine how many.
Well, Anya, I was even going to say, my husband sells building products. So a window itself has so many components to it. So if you are missing a component, now you can't ship the window to the builder to actually start the house. But, here in the South, a lot of components that have to do with our weather. Well, if a manufacturer is not creating it or it doesn't ship it in time, then you can't finish. I'm just using a window. Now the house can't be buttoned up and finished. So it starts so early on. And sometimes it's a lot of supply chains for our housing to get a house buttoned up. And you're looking at so many different chains. Mm-hmm. Am I right? Yeah.
Absolutely. In a house specifically, there are raw materials, right? If you're talking about stick build, there are, there's concrete and bricks, and there's so many little things that you need to bring together. If you're talking about modular, I always say the supply chain is the backbone of modular construction. It's all about, you're building things in a factory, then you're going to on-site, you use logistics to put it on-site, and then, actually assembling it there. And imagine the complexities that go in it. You're thinking, if you're looking at modular construction, you're actually talking about big modules that complicates your logistics, right? And in fact, just sitting in the factory, when you're making those modules, the wall panels, the trusses, procurement plays a big part of it. Your inventory management, how do you planning your demand to make sure that you're on schedule, and then also meeting your, eventually when you ship it, how are you managing your sequencing to make sure that everything is on time? It's pretty complicated, and the complication of supply chain actually increases for modular construction industries because of the nature of the parts and the materials that is involved in this.
Interesting. So can you give us a little bit of an overview of the current state of supply chain for construction industry? Because obviously it seems like there's been a little bit of a relief since the pandemic. So where do you see it right now, and where do you think the future looks like?
There's been a lot of reports talking about just overall the construction sector, right? And it is definitely one of the largest in the world economy. And I was reading this report where it said about $10 trillion spent on construction related goods and services every year. Right? It's massive. Pain that I have been seeing is the industry's productivity that has trailed of the other sectors. When I compare it to manufacturing or the other, that has trailed than the other sectors. And there's about $1.6 trillion of opportunity to close this gap. So, globally, construction sectors, labor productivity and growth has averaged about 1% a year in the past 2 decades, compared to what you would see in manufacturing and some other industries, which is trending around, say, 3.5 or 3%, right? And of course, different for different countries. But, the productivity in manufacturing, I would say, and retail and agriculture, that has grown over the decades, and it has seen about somewhere about 1,000 or 1,500% of improvement decade or year over year. But the productivity in construction has really not seen that. And that's where, I come in, and I want to create awareness on why would we not learn from our peer industries to be thinking of prefabrication manufacturing, and again, that leading to modular construction. It is also important to know that, again, as I said, like the industry might be different, the challenges might be different, but then ultimately the concepts are the same, right? Construction, as I said, is highly fragmented, and there are buyers that they are finding it very hard to navigate this, marketplace that is not very transparent. It can be opaque at sometimes. So the result is you are not able to manage your projects that you are running efficiently. You're not able to execute it. Again, there is a labor shortage, there is a skill shortage. I talk this also about a lot, which is investment in upskilling and reskilling and skill development and R&D and innovation. Like everything has to all come together and orchestrate to actually get to where we want to get at, or at least, see step level improvements in our productivity year over year. And to make this happen, there are certain things, there are a few things that I definitely want to highlight that needs to be changed. Again, the government and the regulation part of it is definitely something that we should be looking at. But we need to be rethinking how we are managing the whole project end to end. So starting from, when the bidding happens, when you're actually just, talking about the need or innovating where the need is, and you're rethinking your design and engineering process. You absolutely have to improve your procurement and your supply chain management end to end here. How do you then use all of this and intelligently improve your on-site execution of putting all these pieces together, using technology and implementing automation? And then, of course, investment in reskilling and upskilling your workforce. A good part of this industry, all the tenets that I just spoke about, could actually move towards, taking inspiration from, say, manufacturing. We're talking about mass production system. We talk a lot about mass customization in supply chain terms, right? Which is exactly what we are trying to achieve with modular construction. When we talk about scalability, we talk about cost efficiency, we talk about interoperability. Why would we not stop and learn from what our peer industries have done and try to induce and take the time to invest in upskilling, reskilling, automation, embracing technology, and in making sure that all these mega projects, they need to be instilling holistic project operating systems on site, right? And construction matters. It is a big part of world's GDP, and the growth and automation can unlock immense productivity. So it's not only going to be beneficial for the people doing construction, it's also beneficial to the overall economy as well. So this is just my state on what the current state is and why we should be looking at investing in innovation in every part of construction that's involved.
We're all aligned in our, I think, thought processes. Anya has been doing a great job of trying to educate our industry on the modular component, because we know she and I have been working for home builders. There's a stigma, right, against that element, right, of the business. And we both worked for a panelized wall system type builder. I worked for what's considered a stick builder. But the more I learn, and the more that as I get older, right, I'm in my 40s now, I'm watching all the trades retire. I remember the skilled trades that I had when I was in my early 20s doing this. Those folks have since retired. Their kids didn't take over the business like years before, when it was a family yep. masonry company, a family, whatever it is, siding, drywall, carpenters, right? It was always family, and potentially sons or daughters would learn the trades. We're not seeing that now. So that's why there's so many initiatives in our industry to get more people into the trades, but it's waning. So going into modular and obviously bringing technology in is absolutely going to help us all maintain our jobs, our careers. It's not going to take anything away, because the job market, there's people leaving or retiring from our job market. We need to sustain, and just like you said, Sneha, like, this is part of our economy. construction drives our economy. We need to be smart about this, and to ignore the elephant in the room. I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I feel like a lot of people have been ignoring the fact that this has to be addressed. But what I see is a lot of home builders, or at least the small to mid-sized guys that I talk to, guys and gals, they are trades folks. They're not necessarily business focused, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
they struggle learning how to do as basic as a CRM, or, just the most basic thing. So that's going to be a need that you're going to be filling. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you also touched on one of the basic points also, why reskilling and upskilling is very relevant. It's more relevant now than it was ever, because our industry, like the ever-changing nature of the industry, and we are growing. It's not that we are shrinking as an industry, and it's only going to grow from here. So why would we not change? Why are we stopping? What is stopping us from embracing change and actually thinking more on the terms of automation? Now, coming to modular construction in itself, I think that's the future. I have seen a lot of interest, government also pushing, not just in the United States. I'm seeing that in South Asia. I'm seeing that in Middle East. Europe has been talking about modular also because of, the sustainability aspect of it. They are so far ahead of us when it comes to sustainability. I love for whatever they have, the progress they have made there. I want to touch on specific examples. Let's start with logistics, right? Logistics probably the most complicated aspect of modular construction, right? Onshore some of the modules could actually range from 5,000 tons in weight, and it's that can actually pretty much make it practically very complicated to move these. I mean, there are a lot of physical limitations, the routes that you need to think about, what kind of equipment you need, how to, what's your alternative fabrication locations for if you're doing it local, you're overseas, where are you going to store all of these modules while you're making the construction? Just so many things. Sorry, I'm talking a lot about that, like material loading, offloading, and identifying which containers you use. What's the truckload mode going to look like? There's so many different aspects of it that needs to be taken care of. I also talk about this in the design phase and not wait for your modules to be ready and then start be thinking about your logistics, because your design also needs to change to adapt and make sure that overall you're being cost efficient. Right now, I don't see a system that talks about all these different pieces together at one space. If you know how your dimensions and your weights are looking like, you also would know what kind of truck you need. Do you need a flatbed, or do you need any other specific equipment? Do you also will at any time need permits? So you are proactively ready for all of this and be thinking of your costs. To starting from the beginning, you're thinking of your costs end to end and knowing how can you remain profitable. If I'm a realtor, I'm a developer, I've actually taken a loan to fund this system. I'm actually paying interest, and with the time ticking and the delay is happening, I'm actually spending money and probably even losing money if I don't meet the schedule. Talking to some of the developers, I also found out that because they do not have enough visibility in this end-to-end system, they actually refrain from doing business in other states, or probably, forget other countries, because they don't even know where the materials are. They don't even know if I'll be profitable in taking, this huge amount of investment, making this investment in some other state. And I don't even know how my logistics is going to fare. What the cost is going to look like. And remember, with modular, we are talking about what? Cost efficiency. We are talking about the speed at which this could be done. So cost and speed are two big USPs of this industry. And your cost can actually go for a toss if you're not keeping track of what your logistics costs are. So that's, again, brings you back to the point on why you need the visibility, why you need to be tracking every single phase, from bidding to design engineering to materials. So offsite operations, your materials, your operations, then logistics, then actually what's your on-site installation looking like, and then maintenance of that. All these phases needs to come together and be talking to each other and be transparent. Of course, I'm not saying that we are prefab manufacturer might not be very comfortable in sharing everything with the real estate developers. So we have to have our own enclosed loop. We need to know how much to share, but then it's important for as a developer, I need to know if some material is not going to come and my logistics carrier would actually be sitting, or I probably rented them for a day or two, whatever. They need to have this visibility, not a day before, enough lead time before, so they are able to proactively manage it and do something about it. Like, today I get a notification, oh, you know what, my driver stuff needed for me to build my wall is not going to come tomorrow. So sorry, your schedule has moved, you are late. That didn't help me, right? That notification, just having that notification didn't help me. If I would have known that enough lead time ahead of and be able to know what my alternatives are, that would have helped me. Now, that would have helped me meet my SLAs of my customers. That's what I am trying to achieve. That's the gap I'm trying to fill.
Yeah, especially in today's world where one thing like a pandemic can completely throw off all of your costs suddenly, right? And there's no way for you to even know how that affects it. So then it trickles down to the customers, and you're lucky if you build that contract with the customers that you can potentially pass some of that cost on to them, or you're stuck building those houses and potentially losing money. So Sneha, right now, you mentioned the word ERP several times. Is that what most builders are using right now to control and manage this process? And what's the alternative that you're offering to them?
Yeah. So ERP has existed in manufacturing for the longest time. There's so many alternatives in different range, meaning in terms of cost and scope. A lot. Here in construction, I have seen ERPs that's targeted to construction, right? We are talking Procore, we are talking Logicore. There are definitely some ERPs that have been very popular and have been very construction focused and have been addressing the customer needs. I do have to say that the onboarding time can be pretty significant. Like, it's definitely nowhere in a couple of weeks that you could have the ERP set up and launched at IBS. And I was talking to one of passing by, I was interacting with people, and I got to know that one of the customers went from a very traditional vanilla ERP to SAP to manage their construction. And I was like, whoa, that's a big, big change, right? Imagine, like, at an executive level, I made that decision that, oh, let's move to SAP. It's great. Whoever the consultant was sold me that, right? I didn't know my why, and I don't even know how my ROI is going to be accomplished, because think about it, the change management. When you invest in ERPs, you have to know how will you get to your ROIs. You have to constantly be tracking it and making sure that whatever dollars you invested in the time, you actually gain something out of it. The biggest challenge with ERPs is the change management. People, if they don't get it, and usually they don't because of the lack of ease of use and also the time spent in training, right? We do not stop and take the time in upskilling them to be able to remain relevant in the industry and be able to, navigate through all these bunch of different awesome screens. Technology is always an enabler. People are the real assets, always. Like, we have to always remember that. Technology can enable us to do things better, to be smart about things, to be managing exceptions, right? To automate redundant tasks. So I am able to focus on things that are important, that are strategic, and that make us profitable. That's what technology is for. But technology cannot do the work it's like garbage in, garbage out. Right? That's as good as what your ERP can get. So that's the challenge that I have seen with ERPs. But yeah, there are tons of ERPs that industry is, well, not tons, actually. Not everyone is focused. Everyone has construction module, but they are not smart. They are not intelligent. This tool that I am with Ethers, and the point is the onboarding time, which is super short and quick. It can sit on ERP. It can sit as a standalone system if you're working through Excel. So trying to make your life easier, right? Give you access to the right dashboards. So you know what your key KPIs are, key metrics, performance indicators, and be able to see that live, right? And as a VP of operations, my interest might be totally different than a supervisor, right? My day-to-day KPIs and my overall goals might be different. And so each of you get your own set of KPIs and project summaries that matter to you, right? And of course, be able to be able to quickly get the notifications, be able to see what the change is looking like overall schedule, how profitable right now we are from a project standpoint. And you don't need to have 10 different softwares. to manage your business. Have a different software for CRM, have a different software for designing, have a different software for project management, have a different software accounting. You don't need to do that. All of this could come under one space and be giving you the right insights so you can focus on what's right at your hand, and you don't need to be switching and context switching in different softwares. That's what I'm getting to. Now, again, I am not trying to build an accounting software especially. I'm not going to build a logistics software. Like, I'm not going to be an expert in all of that. I do want to bring and partner with all the right people and amazing technologies that is disrupting the industry under one platform. So you all can see how this orchestration happens and, enable efficiency for every role that is involved in this process.
And so right now your focus are the modular builders.
Modular builder and again, prefabrication manufacturers that actually work with modular builders. Yes.
So when we started talking, you said circular economy. So talk more a little bit about that concept.
I want to talk about how important, actually, I want to talk about circular supply chains. Why? Because I speak a lot about the power of supply chains in making a circular economy happen. A lot of people confuse circular economy with sustainability. My POV, totally what I think is they are different terms, and we should not be using the term sustainability very loosely, because think about it, sustainability has 17 SDG goals, like sustainable development goals, and each goals mean something, and you're truly not sustainable if you're not addressing all these goals. Circular economy is contributes to sustainability, to some of the goals and umbrellas under sustainability. What circular economy is, it's all about making sure that there is zero waste. Your waste is brought back into the system, so you are using regenerative, renewable inputs, and be able to run a business while doing so. So it should not be a philosophy like CSR goals or ESG, that we have been talking about. Something that I think that can be taken in a business and can be used and reused multiple times. Now, what circular supply chains are, and I'm going to just read it as a definition that we talk about on our website, like they are interconnected systems that will be using secondary, remember, not virgin inputs, secondary and renewable inputs to generate value by reducing and maximizing the resource use. So they're interconnected, meaning ecosystems like in nature and connected digitally and physically, use materials and resources from each other instead of from the planet. So zero waste, because all outputs are used by other value streams. And in this process, extend the life of all equipment, spare parts, and materials that's involved in it. That's in a nutshell what circular supply chains are. Just to keep it simple, most of the listeners here are aware of what's lean. Lean means minimizing waste. A circular supply chain means monetizing waste, meaning now waste becomes value in your value stream. And waste can become a value not just for you, it could be a value for some different industry. So now that waste is as an input to a different industry, and suddenly it has value. Suddenly you have a secondary market. Suddenly you are not looking at virgin materials from the planet. And I do want to touch a little bit quickly on construction, that construction sector uses more raw material. I was like literally 3 days back, I was reading a report on from the UK, and they were talking about how construction sector uses more raw materials than any other sector in the UK, produces the most waste, and is responsible for a quarter of country's carbon emissions. It's overdue and a change. There's so much, if I get started, so much to talk about circular construction and the modern methods of construction that includes on-site and off-site manufacturing of building components. But yeah, I mean, there is significant waste after agriculture. Construction is actually one of the biggest contributors of carbon emissions, and also why we should be thinking about this sooner than later to reduce our footprints.
Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of reading a book. It's called Deluge. It's about what happens basically years down the road with our planet. And I think whether or not you believe in climate change, or I guess whether or not you believe that it's human caused or not, the consequence is still going to be the same for us. So, if we can help change that for our kids and prevent the 2 degrees, right? Then we have a potentially change. And then if you can make money, make that profitable, I mean, that's just a no-brainer. So Sneha, if people want to learn more about what you do and how they can become part of that to improve their costs, to improve the speed, as well as to monetize all those the waste, reduce their carbon footprint, how can they learn more about you? What's the best way to connect with you?
LinkedIn, definitely find me on LinkedIn, follow me. If you visit my profile, I guarantee you I'm gonna go find you and connect with you. So if you have viewed my profile, you're getting connection from me. But yeah, find me on LinkedIn. I would love to nerd out on this concept in general. I am learning a lot about modular construction, about prefabrication manufacturing. So if you are an expert, I would love to talk to you and learn more from you. And if you are interested in learning from my background, I would love to share a little more. So LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn. I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram too. So you could find me there as well. But LinkedIn is my first mode of communication with, and building my community.
I just thank you. One, you said it best, or I don't know if we were recording it, just being with female leader, someone, a change agent, which Anya and I both pride ourselves in trying to move the industry forward. So it's an honor to have you. And I just learned so much just listening to you talk. All of our listeners are going to learn, because this is something that we don't typically all talk about. I'm just excited to introduce this concept. And of course, the modular, like I said earlier, Anya and I get to meet folks in that industry, but the whole, a lot of our builders are not looking at this. I do get a chance to talk to builders that are like, you know what, because of supply chain issues, we're moving directions, but it's like a small trickle. So you being this change agent and also providing technology, it's just exciting, because I think the more that we talk about this, the more you put your stuff out there, the more we can introduce, people just like you to our audience. I think we're going to slowly start seeing a change. It feels like inch by inch, but I think it's really important. And I think I am 1,000% behind you. The modular manufactured is going to be the way that we sustain housing in the future. I really, truly do. I just think that, there's going to be the traditionalists that'll always be there, but the majority will be going this direction.
1,000% with you. And I met Anya. I actually was literally immediately I saw Anya on LinkedIn, her post. I saw her speaking on IBS, and I was like, oh my God, I need to connect with her. It had nothing. I just knew she was a woman in construction. And I was like, oh my God, I would love to connect with our peers, our women leaders in construction. Huge, huge advocate of us leading the way. We have our unique POVs, and we have been pretty successful in whatever we have been doing. So yay to women leaders in construction tech, and always cheering for all of us. We are here to help each other. Thank you, Anya, for connecting and actually just, talking and giving this opportunity. It was lovely meeting you, Sarah, and exactly with you. And thank you for actually providing this platform, right? Where you're bringing unique POVs to speak to, to our listeners. And I have listened to a few your podcast and leadership development and all these gaps. We are all learning with. So thank you for bringing so much information from different people from different parts of this industry to our listeners.
Well, thank you for being on today's show. We appreciate it. And I think our listeners are going to learn a lot. I personally have learned a lot today. So thank you for that. And cheers to women in construction, because this week is actually all about women in construction week. So too bad we don't have any champagne to cheers to that. But it's a little too early in the morning for that. All right, you guys. Well, thank you again for being on, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Bye.
Bye.